So some of you may be aware that I'm undertaking a research project to assess the formal and informal strategies used to combat the death is a failure mentality that many medical students live with. And if you've ever done any academic research, you'll know that generally you start with a literature review to work out what information and research is already out there. And in doing so, I came across a report that compares the quality of death and dying in each country. Essentially, which country will you receive the best end-of-life care? So I thought we'd take a look at that because it was a fascinating report. Before we begin, we post death and dying related videos every Friday, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's talk which country dies best. Let's get the admin out of the way before we get into the juicy stuff. This is probably going to be quite an academic video, but I will try my best to bring it to life. So the report is called Cross-Country Comparison of Expert Assessments of Quality of Death and Dying 2021 and was overseen in partnership by Duke University in the USA and the National University of Singapore, shockingly in Singapore, and published in the Journal of Pain and Symptom Management, which is a very well-known and credible peer-reviewed journal. 2 survey pools were conducted. In the first, 1,200 caregivers in over 80 countries were surveyed, and in the second, surveyed 181 experts representing 81 countries with 2 or more experts reporting. They were asked to use their expertise to grade their country's health systems on 13 weighted factors. These were: the place where the healthcare provider treated the patient was clean, safe and comfortable. Patient was able to be cared for and die in a place of their choosing. Healthcare providers provided appropriate level and quality of life-extending treatments. Healthcare professionals supported patients' spiritual, religious and cultural needs. Care was well coordinated across different healthcare providers. Healthcare providers controlled pain and discomfort for patients' desired level. Healthcare providers helped patients cope emotionally. Healthcare providers encouraged contact with family and friends. Healthcare providers helped with patients' non-medical concerns. Healthcare providers delivered clear and timely information so patients could make informed decisions. Healthcare providers asked enough questions to understand patients' needs. Healthcare providers mostly treated patients kindly and sympathetically. And costs were not a barrier to patients getting appropriate care. So a pretty comprehensive criteria there. And no, not all countries were part of the survey. You won't find North Korea or Afghanistan in the survey. And I think it would be pretty right to assume that dying in those countries is pretty shit. But all countries that could be surveyed were. So I think that gives you a good overview. This is a YouTube video after all, it's not an academic seminar, so we got to keep things moving. If you are curious or more academically minded, I will of course link the report in the description. And before we show you the results, where do you think your country will land in the rankings? Where do you think other countries will land and why? Let us know your initial guesses in the comments. Done? Good. Let's have a look. The results. So here are the results. Yes, I'm aware you can't actually read it, but they are color graded A, B, C, D and F. So keep that in mind as we zoom in. The top 5 best places to die are these, and there's actually 6 because there was a tie. UK, Ireland, Taiwan, Australia, South Korea and Costa Rica. Now, for all the Brits watching, I know complaining about your country is a national pastime that you couldn't live without. So this is going to be a hard pill to swallow, but you're actually doing the best. I know. I'm sure with time and enough tea, you will be able to come to terms with this unfortunate turn of events. Meanwhile, Ireland, I thought you were going to be number 1, but pipped at the post there by the UK, and I'm sure there will be no hard feelings about that. You do have the modern healthcare system, small geographical size and a very death-accepting culture, but it would appear a lack of doctors let you down a bit there, probably because they're all over here or in the UK. Sorry about that, but good for us. In third place is Taiwan, and yes, just like myself, the survey has chosen to give the middle finger and determine Taiwan as a country. Probably a good thing since China was ranked 53. Then we have a 3-way tie in 4th place for Australia, South Korea and Costa Rica. To any Costa Ricans watching, I'm sorry to say I doubted you, but it is so nice to see you bringing your A game and punching above your weight. Bravo, my friend. And to the Aussies who still have a bit of British DNA in them and love to whine about the country, suck it up, princess, we're actually doing pretty well as a general rule. So that's the A grade team. Let's head to the B grade. Starting with North Macedonia, followed by Panama, Hong Kong, Lithuania, a country that I really want to visit if someone wants to invite me. Norway, our smaller but much loved and much more functional mate, New Zealand. Followed by Switzerland, who I really thought would be higher on this list. Poland, Germany, Sri Lanka, Sweden, Mongolia, France, Finland, Belarus, did not expect to see them here, Canada, Singapore, Japan, Hungary, Belgium, Botswana, and to round out the B grade is Spain. A decent list there. So who's watching this and thinking, oh crap, my country hasn't come up yet? Now, I'm not going to read out the whole list, you can check out the report on your own. But since we do have a large US audience, I will point you guys out. So you are here, a C grade, so a pass, and you are ranked 43. Now, I'm sure a lot of people would expect the USA to be in a high position here. They have some of the best doctors and medical facilities in the world, and that's very true. But as this report pointed out, having a good death is not solely based on a country's economic ability to have shiny medical equipment and brilliant doctors. If it was, countries like the USA and Denmark, who both got a C grade, would be much higher, and countries like North Macedonia and Mongolia would be lower, but they're not. And in the case of the USA, what really let them down is their negative culture around dying, the lack of resource mobilization, and the financial consequences of end-of-life care. Simply put, your country can have the best medical facilities anywhere, but if you can't access them, can't afford them, or doctors will use them against you to make themselves feel better, then it really doesn't matter how good your facilities are. Now, I'm not saying this to take a cheap jab at the USA, because there is a massive plus to their circumstances here. When people recognize something is going badly, really badly, many will choose to fight to improve it. The worse it is, the harder they fight. And that's what's going on in a lot of US medical schools at the moment, particularly where culture part is involved. Universities like Duke University, one of the two unis who organised this research, are making great strides in preparing new medical students to resist the death is a failure mentality. And in that regard, Duke University and others like it are doing much better than many other medical schools in countries that came out better in this survey. But of course, that's only one part of the equation, and we all know where the answers to the others lie. So I'm sure you're wondering, who was at the bottom of the list? That would be Haiti, Senegal, Brazil, Lebanon, and in last place, Paraguay. Yes, they have some ways to go in improving in this area, but considering what is happening in some of these countries, I do hope that no one would be shaming them for it. And it should also be said that just because they were at the bottom of this list doesn't mean they're doing the worst in the world, because there were many countries where researchers couldn't even get a hold of experts. Countries like North Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Turkmenistan, with authoritative leaders, weren't accessible. Neither were many countries who are at war, like the Congo, Yemen, and Afghanistan. So when you're thinking, our country's shit, look how bad we're doing, remember these countries, where researchers can't go, experts can't be found, and even attempting to die well is verging on the impossible. Key findings from the report. Okay, so we're about to get quite academic here, so feel free to tune out if that's not your thing, I get it. So, while the ranking list is interesting, the report uncovered several critical findings. Higher income countries generally perform better, but the financial resources alone were not always sufficient. One key issue was the inconsistent integration of palliative care, as some healthcare systems prioritize curative treatments over end-of-life support, leaving patients without adequate care in their final stages. Fragmentation within the healthcare system also played a role, making it different for patients to navigate end-of-life services, leading to a negative experience. Additionally, overly restricted opioid policies in certain developed countries limited access to essential pain relief, causing unnecessary suffering. Now, I know, of course, many governments are worried about addiction, so they've put overarching laws in place to try and ensure that that doesn't happen, but it inadvertently causes other problems. This situation can be summed up by a father that we were talking to in hospice, where his adult son was a patient. We were saying we should probably increase your son's pain meds because he's very uncomfortable. And the dad yelled, "No more pain meds, he'll become an addict," before storming out of the room. And I kid you not, less than 2 seconds later, we hear him scolding himself out in the hallway saying, "What the hell are you on about, you idiot? He won't be an addict because he'll be dead." Followed by him slinking back into his son's room, profusely apologising and agreeing that yes, we should up his meds. Governments need to remember you're not creating new addicts in patients that won't be around next week. But people and governments forget that because only one side of the coin is constantly shown to them. Ensuring equitable access to pain relief must be a global priority for end-of-life patients. Cultural and social attitudes further contributed to low rankings, as societal discomfort with discussing death often hindered the development of comprehensive end-of-life care policies and training for healthcare providers. Lastly, some well-developed nations placed limited investment in non-medical aspects of care, primarily focusing on medical interventions while neglecting psychological and spiritual support. This lack of holistic care negatively impacted the overall quality of end-of-life experience for patients and their families. Policy recommendations for improving end-of-life care. Part of many academic reports is making recommendations for change and improvement, and this report is no different. Key actions the report recommends include expanding access to essential medications, ensuring that all patients have access to pain relief and other essential medications should be top priority. Governments must revisit restrictive opioid policies and implement safeguards that will allow for responsible prescribing. Universal coverage for palliative care services. Financial barriers prevent many individuals from receiving quality end-of-life care. Expanding universal health coverage to include palliative care services can prevent medical bankruptcy and improve patient well-being. Investing in education and training. Healthcare providers require specialised training in palliative care, communication and psychological support to deliver high-quality end-of-life care. Training programs should be expanded to include the lay health worker, particularly in resource-limited settings. Integrating palliative care into the broader health system. Countries with strong palliative care integration within their healthcare system tend to perform better in the end-of-life rankings. Policymakers should prioritise embedding palliative care services into primary care and hospital settings. Enhancing public awareness and engagement. Public education campaigns can help reduce stigma around death and encourage individuals to plan for their end-of-life care. Promoting compassionate communities can also strengthen support networks for patients and families. Improving oversight and quality assurance. Establishing quality standards, regulatory oversight and routine assessments can help maintain high levels of care and identify areas for improvement. This is an interesting and necessary report, and importantly, it's more than just a ranking. It proves that money alone, be it the patient's or how much your medical facility is worth, will not necessarily ensure you a good death. But change starts with knowing that it's an issue that can be changed. Your local politician is not going to try and make waves if they're not aware that it's an issue that the public is passionate about. Which is why sitting around whining does nothing. At the very least, make solid plans for yourself. And if you need help with that, you can always book a consultation with us through our website. And with that, go talk death.